It's been so long since I wore my old kung fu outfit. Well, today is June anyway, folks. Sorry it took so long. I had a hard time trying to think of what to review, but I think now is the perfect time. So, greetings. I am multi-voice reviewer. I am many voices, but one opinion. God, that's an awful accent I ever done. I'll promise I won't do that again. Last thing I want to do is insult people. Anyway, now, right now it's Asian month, ladies and gentlemen. And, I couldn't find a certain Asian movie for me to review, but, now, I remember last time when I first announced my Asian month review, I swear I would not review kung fu movies or Godzilla films, but I'm breaking the rules a bit. I'm cheating a bit on this one. So I'll probably review a couple of kung fu movies, but no Godzillas. I am not a huge Godzilla fan, and I hardly collect any Godzilla films. So, I mean, I do enjoy Godzilla films, but I'm just not a huge fan enough for me to collect any and review them. But for this review, I'm going to review the legend himself, the one who started the Asian franchise. I mean, the ancient Chinese culture of kung fu. So pretty much what I'm going to be talking about is none other than, folks, Bruce Lee. What can you say about this guy? Actually, what can you say about this guy? He's a legend. And sadly he died from a allergic reaction from an aspirin he took while he was in that one Chinese actress's hotel room named Betty Tempeh. Now, I heard a lot of people say that he might be cheating on his wife with Betty Tempeh, but I doubt if that's true. I mean, I highly doubt that Bruce Lee ever cheat on his wife. But Bruce Lee, he was quite a legend of his time. And one thing not many people know about Bruce Lee, he's actually part Chinese. So, I mean, he was born in San Francisco, and his mother was German, and his father was Chinese. And his father, he was a Chinese opera actor. And one thing you should know, folks, that Bruce Lee was a child actor before he got himself into big films. And he did appear in other movies where it's not exactly kung fu related, it's more of a drama he done. But of course, he preferred to be a fighter than a lover. So, he made a deal with this movie director who, owns a studio called Golden Harvest, and that's when he made these 4 kung fu movies that he appeared in. Now, the first movie I'm going to talk about in this box collection I have here, although the glue from the box kind of slide off, but the first movie I'm going to talk about today is this, Fist of Fury. Oh yeah, one thing I do have to add. one time Bruce Lee wanted to have the part playing the main character in the TV series called Kung Fu, but sadly they didn't give him a part, but gave the part to John Carradine. Or wait a minute, not John, David Carradine. Why him? I mean, but it was during the time that Hollywood hardly used Asian actors to play the main character. They either use Asians to either play the bad guy, and female actresses either play the femme fatale, or or have the Asian guy play a master, while the main character always had to be white. And they always thought that Charlie Chan and Fu Manchu was offensive. Of course, that's pretty much true because most actors who played Charlie Chan and Fu Manchu are white guys, and they made them look Asian, which now in society we find that very offensive. So much for that. So much for that crossover theory I had in mind. Charlie Chan meets Fu Manchu. It's like, what if? I mean, Charlie Chan, he's this Chinese detective from San Francisco, and he's kind of like a Chinese Sherlock Holmes, except he has a wife and a bunch of kids. And Fu Manchu, he's a Chinese evil mastermind, and all he wants to do, he's like Moriarty. He's like the Napoleon of crime. All he wants to do is to turn the entire world into China and turn everybody Asian. I mean, some people say that he's like a evil sorcerer, but he's actually a mad scientist. I mean, he's very very smart, and he's really, really old, so he's kind of immortal in a way. But now in the society, a lot of Asian people find Fu Manchu and Charlie Chan offensive. So, so thank goodness I didn't think up that crossover theory. Last thing I want to do is to upset Asia, because one thing you know about me, about Asia, I have a soft spot. But let's talk about the legend today. And one thing I also remember that Bruce Lee had done, Bruce Lee also appeared in that crime fighting series called the Green Hornet. Except he didn't play the main character, he played his trusty companion and chauffeur named Kato. And surprisingly, on the TV show, the sidekick became a lot more popular than the hero. But anyway, now let's get to the first movie he appeared in. Now, in Fist of Fury, now of course in America we call it Fist of Fury, but the correct title is called Big Boss. And it's a story about Bruce Lee, who goes by the name of Chin Lee. He goes all the way to Thailand because his uncle wants to have him a decent job in Thailand. And he also made a promise because he'd gone through years of training, years of fighting, and years of kung fu. And he gave him a jade necklace around his neck as a promise not to go to any fights and don't cause trouble because of the necklace. But sadly, it's not his fault because most of the Thai people are pushing the Chinese around, and and also and also Ching, I mean, yeah, Ching Li, he also has a cousin, a very lovely cousin that he kind of love as a sister, and couple of Thai bad guys tried to kidnap her, but you know him, he pulled no punches. But when this big fight happened, the jade necklace that he wore broke, and now he took some fights and did some kung fu stuff on him. So they made him become a new boss, but his best friend, who also does kung fu, he gets killed. So now he starts to realize these Thai people, they work in this ice factory and they were smuggling drugs. I mean, they were smuggling cocaine from Thailand to other countries. And some of the people who starts finding out gets killed. And of course, Bruce Lee himself, he starts to discover that his best friend is murdered, and they put him in the ice along with this Thai prostitute who tried to vamp him and make him look bad, but she couldn't do it because she sensed he's a decent guy. So they killed her. He saved his cousin, but he has to battle against the boss himself. And of course, at the end, after the fight, he dealt with the bad guy, and then his cousin showed up with the cops. And the only thing he should do is not fight the cops, just let them take him in. And that was Big Boss, not Fist of Fury. Now, next on the another movie that he done is none other than Chinese Connection, aka The Real Fist of Fury. This was the original title, Fist of Fury, but they turned it to Chinese Connection. In this one, Bruce Lee showed up in Japan and discovered that his kung fu master has been murdered, and he showed up during his funeral. And then all of a sudden, all these Chinese starts getting hassled by the Japanese, even insulting them by giving them a sign that says the Chinese are the sick men in Asia. And of course, they were supposed to fight them, but they didn't fight them. So now, Bruce Lee noticed a lot of prejudice in Japan, so he took matters in his own hands. And now a bunch of Japanese detectives are trying to find him and apprehend him, while at the same time, he's hiding and trying to protect his school. And of course, the same actress who plays the cousin is also in this movie. She's been appearing as the either the love interest or somebody that he has unconditional love with. She always appeared in his movies. And now, this Japanese master, he has this guy from Europe who's more big, strong kind of guy. But to Bruce Lee, no problem. So he battled against the masters in Japan, and then he went for the European guy and finally killed him with a big chop on his neck. And then he battled against the Japanese master. But little did he know, all those people from the Japanese kung fu school, he killed all of the he killed all the students and the teachers in that Chinese school. He slaughtered every single one of them. And he also discovered that his master was murdered because it turns out one of the chef was one of the Japanese who poisoned their master. That's what he did, that famous line, "You killed my teacher! Why? But now, the master is destroyed. I mean, the Japanese master is destroyed, and the cop showed up. And he grabbed the cop and tell him, "Promise me that they leave my school alone." And the cop was like, "I promise." And after they're about ready to apprehend him, there were a group of other cops with their rifles pointing at him and at the doorstep. So he didn't come in quietly, so he screamed and did a jump high kick until they all shot him down. And believe it or not, Fist of Fury, they decided to make a sequel, believe it or not. And the sequel is called New Fist of Fury, starring Jackie Chan. It's supposed to pick up where the first movie left off, so now Jackie Chan is playing the new hero. But the ending was terrible. I hated it. And I also heard that they did a remake of Fist of Fury. A remake, and it's starring none other than Jet Li. I know this is Hero, but I don't have the new Fist of Fury on DVD, so I had to have a picture of an actor, so I picked up Hero. But Jet Li, he appeared in the remake version of Fist of Fury. Now to the other movie. Oh yeah. Return of the Dragon, aka Way of the Dragon. At first, when I heard the title called Return of the Dragon, I thought it was a sequel to Enter the Dragon, but I was wrong. And I'll talk about this soon. But anyway, in this one, Bruce Lee, he shows up in Rome, Italy, and it turns out that there is a group of Italian thugs who keeps picking on a group of Chinese people who is working on a Chinese restaurant. And all these thugs, what they're doing is they're causing problems so they won't get enough money to support themselves in that restaurant. They keep terrorizing the customers out of the restaurant. So, it's up to Bruce Lee to kick some butt. And of course, believe it or not, this movie has a legendary Chuck Norris himself. That's right. Legendary Chuck Norris. This hand can crush coal into diamonds. I'll be hitting you with so many rights, you'll be begging for lefts. Rumor had it you were bitten by a king cobra. Yeah, I did. But after 5 weeks of agonizing pain, the cobra died. Yeah, I'm familiar with Chuck Norris and that whole Walker, Texas Ranger thing. Believe it or not, Chuck Norris is one of Bruce Lee's students. Anyway, Chuck Norris, he becomes an American black belt champion who shows up in Rome because the bad guys want him to rough up Bruce Lee. And of course, there's the famous fight between the two legends, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. And of course, Bruce Lee won and Chuck Norris lost. And that was the only movie you saw Chuck Norris get his butt beat by Bruce Lee. You see, guys, I'm just not a huge fan of Chuck Norris. I'm more into Bruce Lee than I do with Chuck Norris. Anyway, back to the thing. Chuck Norris finally defeated Chuck Norris, and the bad guys were defeated. And of course, he cannot stay, so he has to leave. At least he's playing a character who survives and not get captured by the cops. Now, before I'm going to get to the fourth one, I'm going to talk about a fifth one he did, and it wasn't from the Golden Harvest, believe it or not. This one was the movie that I enjoyed more than anything in the world, and it's none other than Enter the Dragon. I always loved the theme song on Enter the Dragon. And of course, according to this movie, you also have Grace Kelly. Is that his name? Oh, Jim Kelly. You have Jim Kelly, who appeared in a lot of black exploitation kung fu movies, and Bob Wall. In this movie, it turns out that Jim Kelly and Bob Wall and Bruce Lee, they've been invited to go into this island, and it turns out it's owned by a drug lord. And it turns out that that there was a bad guy with a scar on his face. He killed his sister, well, caused his sister commit suicide because they were about ready to rape her. So he's taking vengeance on the death of his sister, while at the same time taking down the bad guy, who has a replaceable hand. He takes off his hand, and now he has this claw with 3 blades coming out of it. It was before the idea of Wolverine started. But this became the inspiration of Mortal Kombat and all the other fighting movies they've done. And surprisingly, Jim Kelly gets killed in this movie. And of course, Bruce Lee, he has the famous scars on him from that bad guy, but he finally defeated the bad guy in this one. And Enter the Dragon was the best movie I have ever seen. I've seen this more than the other Bruce Lee movies. A little known fact: did you know that Bruce Lee was trained by a legendary kung fu master himself, but never was a Hollywood type? And he was the only one who let Bruce Lee. He was the only one who welcomed Bruce Lee into his kung fu class because he wanted to study kung fu, but there were other Asians out there who doesn't like Bruce Lee because he's part white. He's part Asian, part white, and they call him Guai which it's Chinese for, well, it's Chinese for honky or cracker. It's one of those words. So if you heard a Chinese calling us Guai you know they're insulting us. And that's what they called Bruce Lee, but the Ip Man himself, he welcomed him in and taught him kung fu, and that's when he created his own martial arts called Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist or foot. Say, for example, he can use one of his deadliest technique in the world, his sidekick, to the lowest part of the body, the kneecap. It's like a left jab in boxing, but a lot more damaging. Anyway, after Enter the Dragon, this is this was one movie they made that they didn't finish. There was a movie that Bruce Lee starred in. Bunch of stupid dogs. Anyway, there was a bunch of bad guys who live in this huge tower, and believe it or not, Abdul-Jabbar was in it. But it was a kung fu movie where Bruce Lee wore that famous white jumpsuit with the black stripe on it, like this one here. And he was supposed to be defeating one master who uses two red clubs to bash people with, and this other guy who's a sort of a jujitsu master who wore a golden belt. And then he went to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's like 10 times taller than Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee took him down. But they didn't finish the movie until Bruce Lee's death started. So what they done is they took the footage and made this movie they called Game of Death. And they changed the story. You see, they found a body double. They found a body double and a lot of Bruce Lee lookalikes. So they can mimic Bruce Lee. And of course, when they did up close scenes, they digitally put Bruce Lee's face on their body. And even close up of him looking like this. I mean, him moving his eyes like this. And then they made a story into it where Bruce Lee, or his double, he's supposed to be playing this actor, young kung fu movie star named Billy Liu. And turns out that some of the people in the studio are very crooked. So he faked his death by using footage of his funeral, using footage of Bruce Lee's funeral to add it to it, and made a totally different story. And that was Game of Death. It was okay. And now I've been hearing that people's been doing TV shows and movies involving Bruce Lee. I don't know if they're either made up, I don't know if they are made up or based from a true event. But here's one thing I know for sure. There's never going to be another Bruce Lee. That I can tell. I mean, Jet Li might be good, but he's no Bruce Lee. And Jackie Chan, he has his own style. Oh yeah, another bit that some of you are going to be shoving that down my throat. Jackie Chan did had a small part in Enter the Dragon. During that scene where Bruce Lee was kicking all the bad guys, and there was one of the guys he grabbed him by the hair and turned him around, and did this. The guy's neck that he twists was Jackie Chan himself. So, Jackie Chan is also good, but he has his own style. He has his own style of kung fu and humor, where he always likes to put a lot of comedy in his movies. And I know that New Fist of Fury, it's definitely not a comedy. It's more dramatic, since it is a sequel to the Bruce Lee's first film. He will be missed, but never be forgotten, because nothing cannot top Bruce Lee. And of course, there might be a lot of imitators, but Bruce Lee is irreplaceable. So, this is Michael A. Grimm, aka Multi-Voice Reviewer, telling you folks, if you love this Bruce Lee tribute, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. And if you guys want me to review more Kung Fu movies for Asian Month, leave it down below, because I don't know if I'm willing to do this or not. I have a lot of Kung Fu films, and there's some I would like to talk about. So, it's up to you folks. You make the call if you want me to review Kung Fu films or not for this Asian Month. But you got to do it quick, because sooner or later, July is going to come. So, this is Michael A. Grimm, aka Multi-Voice Reviewer, telling to you all, see you soon.